This happened back in the summer of 2020 when I was 24, driving across Nevada for a new job in Reno. My name's Sarah, and I just graduated college, ready to start fresh in a new city. I was on a long stretch of Highway 50. Folks call it the loneliest road in America. And let me tell you, it lives up to the name. Miles of desert, no towns, just sand and scrub under a baking sun. My old hatchback was loaded with boxes, rattling with every bump, and I was maybe halfway through my drive, out in the middle of nowhere, when I saw him. It was late afternoon, the sky turning that golden color that makes everything look like a painting. Up ahead, on the shoulder, a guy stood with his thumb out, a backpack slung over one shoulder. He looked normal enough, jeans, a faded green t-shirt, maybe in his 30s. I slowed down, not sure why. I'd never picked up a hitchhiker before. My dad's voice was in my head, saying, "Don't be stupid, Sarah, keep driving." But the road was so empty, and the guy looked tired, not threatening. I pulled over, gravel crunching under my tires, and rolled down the passenger window. "Hey," I called out, "where you headed?" He walked over, slow and deliberate, his boots kicking up dust. "Reno," he said, voice low but clear. "You going that way?" I nodded. "Hop in, it's a long drive." He tossed his backpack in the back seat and slid in beside me. Up close, he smelled faintly of sweat and something metallic, like old coins. His hands were rough, knuckles scarred, but he smiled, a small, tight smile, and said his name was Tom. I told him mine, and we started driving. The first few minutes were quiet, just the hum of the engine and the occasional clatter from my boxes. I tried making small talk, asking where he was from, but he kept answers short. "Around," he'd say, or "been moving a lot." His eyes stayed on the road, but every now and then, I caught him glancing at me, quick, like he was sizing me up. The sun dipped lower, painting the desert red. I noticed Tom's backpack was unzipped and something glinted inside, a handle, maybe a knife. My stomach twisted, but I told myself I was being paranoid. Lots of people carry knives out here. It's practically a desert survival kit. Still, I kept my left hand near the door handle, just in case. About 20 minutes in, he started talking more, asking about my job, where I was from. His questions felt off, too specific, like, "You got family waiting for you in Reno, and you travel this road a lot." I answered vaguely, my grip tightening on the wheel. Then he said something that made my blood run cold. "You ever wonder what's buried out here in all this sand?" He wasn't looking at me, just staring out at the dunes, his voice flat, like he was talking about the weather. I forced a laugh, said something dumb like, "Probably just rocks," but my heart was pounding. The road was dead empty, no cars, no lights, nothing but us and the desert. I glanced at the dashboard clock, 6:47 p.m. We'd been driving maybe 30 minutes, and I realized I hadn't seen another vehicle in ages. Tom shifted in his seat, reaching into his pocket. I braced myself, ready to swerve or slam the brakes, geriatric car or not. But he just pulled out a pack of gum, offering me a piece. I shook my head, trying to keep my voice steady. "No thanks." He popped a piece in his mouth, chewing slowly. "You're smart not to trust strangers," he said, almost to himself. "Lots of bad people out here." The way he said it, so casual, made my skin crawl. I noticed his backpack again. That glint was still there, and now I was sure it was a knife handle, maybe a hunting knife. My mind raced. Was he testing me? Was this some kind of game? I decided I needed to get him out of my car. Up ahead, I saw a faded sign for a gas station, maybe 10 miles off. It was my only shot. "Hey, Tom," I said, keeping my tone light. "I'm gonna stop for gas soon. You cool with that?" He nodded, but his eyes narrowed, like he knew I was up to something. The next few miles were torture, silence so thick it felt like it was pressing on my chest. I kept checking the rearview mirror, half expecting him to pull that knife. Finally, the gas station came into view, a dusty little place with one pump and a flickering neon sign. I pulled in, heart hammering, and said, "I'll be quick. You need anything?" He shook his head, just watching me. I grabbed my purse, locked the car doors as I got out, and hurried inside. The clerk was an older guy reading a magazine. I leaned close and whispered, "There's a guy in my car. I don't feel safe. Can you call someone?" The clerk's eyes widened, but he nodded, reaching for a phone under the counter. I pretended to browse the snack aisle, stealing glances outside. Tom was still in the passenger seat, but now he was leaning over, rummaging in his backpack. My stomach dropped. Was he grabbing the knife? I stayed inside, heart racing, until I saw headlights in the distance. A sheriff's cruiser, thank God. The clerk must have called 911. The deputy pulled up, and I pointed out my car. He approached Tom's side, hand on his holster, and asked him to step out. Tom complied, slow and calm. But when the deputy asked to check his backpack, things got weird. Tom bolted, sprinting into the desert, leaving his bag behind. The deputy didn't chase him, just secured the bag and called for backup. When they opened it, there was the knife, a big one, along with some rope and a roll of duct tape. My knees nearly gave out. The deputy took my statement, and they searched the area but didn't find Tom. They figured he was a drifter, maybe wanted for something, but his name didn't pull up anything in their system. They escorted me to Reno, and I made it to my new apartment, shaken but safe. I still drive Highway 50 sometimes, but never at dusk, and never alone. Every time I pass that stretch of desert, I think about Tom's question. What's buried out there in all that sand? I don't know, and I don't want to find out. This happened in the fall of 2022, when I was 19, living in a small apartment in Boise, Idaho. My name's Ethan, and I was a freshman at a local community college, juggling classes and a part-time job at a coffee shop. I'd moved out of my parents' house just a few months earlier, excited for my first taste of freedom. My place was a tiny studio on the edge of town, cheap but decent, with a single window facing a quiet street lined with old maple trees. The neighborhood felt safe, mostly families and retirees, so I never thought twice about locking my door at night. That was my first mistake. It was a Thursday, around 10 p.m., and I was sprawled on my couch, half watching a movie on my laptop. The street outside was dark, the only sound the occasional rustle of leaves in the wind. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I figured it was a wrong number or spam, but the message stopped me cold. Nice blue couch, looks comfy. My heart skipped. My couch was blue, and I was sitting on it right now. I shot up, glanced at the window, but the blinds were down, no gaps. Nobody could see inside. I typed back, "Who is this?" No reply. I tried to shake it off, telling myself it was a prank. Maybe a friend got a new number and was messing with me. But my stomach churned. I double-checked the door, locked deadbolt in place, and turned off the movie. The silence felt heavier now, like the air was pressing down. Then the phone buzzed again. Another text. "You should close your bedroom closet." I froze. My studio didn't have a separate bedroom, just a corner with my bed and a small sliding door closet. The closet door was open, maybe a foot, like it always was. I never closed it. I'm not that tidy. I grabbed a kitchen knife from the drawer, my hand shaky, and edged toward the closet. The apartment was small, maybe 400 square feet, so it was only a few steps. I stood there, staring into the dark gap, listening for any sound, a creak, a breath. Nothing. I yanked the door fully open, knife raised, expecting I don't know what. The closet was empty, just my clothes and a couple of boxes. My heart was pounding so hard, I could feel it in my throat. I slid the door shut, locked it, and backed away. Another buzz. This time, a photo. It was blurry, but it showed my apartment building from the street, my window lit up, blinds glowing. The timestamp was 5 minutes ago. Whoever this was, they were outside, watching. I turned off every light, plunging the place into darkness, and crouched by the couch, clutching the knife. I dialed 911, whispering to the operator that someone was stalking me, sending me texts, maybe outside my building. Minutes dragged like hours. Every rustle outside, leaves, wind, a passing car, made me flinch. Then the phone buzzed again. Not a text, but a call from the same number. I didn't answer, but the voicemail chime sounded a second later. Against my better judgment, I played it. A man's voice, low and raspy, said, "Check your door, Ethan." He knew my name. My blood ran cold. I crawled to the door, staying low, and peeked through the peephole. The hallway outside was empty, but I noticed something. A faint shadow moving under the door, like someone was standing just out of sight. I backed away, whispering to the 911 operator that I thought someone was at my door. She said the police were 2 minutes out. I gripped the knife tighter, my palms sweaty, and watched the door handle. It didn't move, but I swear I heard a faint scratch, like metal on metal. Then, silence. Too much silence. My phone buzzed again, a new text. "Look behind you." I whipped around, knife raised, but no one was there. Just my dark apartment, the closet still closed, the window blinds still shut. Headlights flashed outside, and I heard car doors slam. I peeked through the blinds and saw 2 officers crossing the street, flashlights sweeping the sidewalk. I opened the door, waving them over, and spilled everything. The texts, the photo, the voicemail. They searched the building, the street, even the alley behind, but found no one. No footprints, no dropped phone, nothing. They took my phone to log the messages and said they'd trace the number, but it came back as a burner, untraceable. They stayed until dawn, patrolling the block, but whoever it was had vanished. I crashed at a friend's place for a week, too scared to go back. When I finally did, I installed a chain lock and kept every light on at night. The texts stopped, and no one ever called again. But a month later, I found something that still haunts me. Tucked behind my couch, half buried in the carpet, was a single key, a small silver one, not mine. I don't know how it got there or what it opened, but I moved out the next month. I still check my locks every night, and I never leave my blinds open. Whoever was out there knew my name, my couch, my closet, and I'm terrified they're still watching, waiting for me to slip up again. This happened in the winter of 2023, when I was 27, working the late shift at a 24-hour diner in a small town outside Tulsa, Oklahoma. My name's Rachel, and I'd been waitressing there for about a year to pay off some student loans. The diner was one of those old school spots, red vinyl booths, a jukebox that only played country hits from the 80s, and a neon sign that buzzed louder than the crickets outside. It sat on a quiet highway, mostly serving truckers and locals who couldn't sleep. The late shift, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., was usually dead after midnight. Just me, the cook, and the hum of the fluorescents. That night was colder than usual, the kind of cold that creeps through the windows and makes your breath fog indoors. Around 1 a.m., the place was empty except for one regular, Old Man Pete, nursing his coffee in the corner booth. The cook, Javier, was in the back, probably sneaking a smoke. I was wiping down the counter, the rag squeaking against the formica, when the bell above the door jingled. A guy walked in, tall, maybe 40, wearing a heavy gray coat and a trucker hat, pulled low. He carried a small duffel bag, the kind you'd take to the gym, and his boots left wet tracks on the floor, like he'd been walking in the snow. I smiled, said, "Welcome in. Grab any seat." He didn't smile back, just nodded and slid into a booth near the back, away from the windows. Something about him felt off. His eyes darted around the diner, never settling, like he was checking for exits. I handed him a menu, and he ordered black coffee, his voice low and clipped. I poured it, set it down, and went back to the counter, but I kept an eye on him in the reflection of the pie case. He wasn't drinking the coffee, just staring at it, hands wrapped around the mug, like he was trying to warm them. Old man Pete left around 1:30, tossing a crumpled 5 on the table. Now it was just me, Javier, and this guy. The diner felt smaller, the air heavier. I busied myself refilling ketchup bottles, but I could feel his eyes on me every time I turned away. Around 2 a.m., he called me over. "You got a phone I can use?" he asked. I pointed to the payphone by the restrooms. Nobody used it anymore, but it still worked. He shook his head. "Need a cell? Mine's dead." I told him I didn't have one to lend. Company policy, I lied. His jaw tightened, and he leaned back, eyes narrowing. "Fine," he muttered, and went back to staring at his coffee. By 2:30, Javier popped out from the kitchen, saying he was taking a break in his car. I wanted to tell him to stay, but he was already out the back door. The guy in the booth shifted, unzipping his duffel bag. My heart kicked up. I couldn't see what he was doing, but the bag was open now, and I heard a soft clink, like metal on metal. I grabbed the coffee pot, pretending to offer a refill, and got a closer look. Inside the bag, I glimpsed something shiny. A wrench, maybe? Or something heavier. My mouth went dry. I topped off his coffee, hands trembling, and hurried back to the counter. Then the power flickered. The lights buzzed, dimmed, and came back on, but weaker, casting long shadows across the booths. The guy stood up, slow and deliberate, and walked toward the counter. My pulse pounded in my ears. He stopped a few feet away, leaning on the counter, his hat still hiding half his face. "You alone here?" he asked, voice so low I barely heard it. I forced a smile, said, "Cook's in the back," even though Javier was still outside. He tilted his head, like he didn't believe me, and reached into his coat pocket. I backed up, bumping into the register. My hand slid under the counter where we kept a panic button, installed after a robbery a few years back. I pressed it hard, praying it still worked. The guy pulled out a pack of cigarettes, not a weapon, and lit one, even though the no smoking sign was right behind him. The smoke curled up, sharp and acrid. "Long night, huh?" he said, almost casual, but his eyes were locked on mine, unblinking. I nodded, trying to keep my voice steady. "Yeah, real long." I glanced at the clock. 2:45 a.m. The police station was 10 minutes away. If the panic button worked, help was coming. But 10 minutes felt like forever. He took a drag, blew smoke toward the ceiling, and said, "You ever get scared, working here all alone?" My stomach twisted. I mumbled something about it being a quiet town, but my voice cracked. He smirked, just a little, and tapped his cigarette ash onto the floor. Outside, I heard the crunch of tires on gravel. Javier's car, or maybe someone else. I didn't dare look. The guy noticed, though, and his smirk faded. He grabbed his duffel, slung it over his shoulder, and headed for the door. "Keep the change," he said, tossing $1 on the counter. The bell jingled as he left, and I watched him walk into the snowy parking lot, his figure fading into the dark. A minute later, blue lights flashed, 2 cop cars pulling in. I ran to the door, waving, and told them everything. The guy, the bag, the questions, the cigarette. They searched the lot, the highway, even the ditch across the road, but he was gone. No car, no tracks, just snow piling up. They checked the security footage later. The camera caught him entering, but his face was too shadowed to make out. The duffel bag, though, they zoomed in, and it looked like it held tools, maybe a crowbar. The cops said he matched the description of a guy linked to a string of break-ins nearby, always hitting small businesses at night, always alone. They never caught him. I quit the diner a week later, couldn't handle the late shifts anymore. Every time I drive by that neon sign, I remember his voice, "You ever get scared?" And I check my rearview mirror, half expecting to see him standing in the snow, watching.